Hello and welcome to another video by Daisies. My name is Mela and today we're running through a speed build of a classic Toronto house. This is known as the Bay and Gable. To be honest, this is one of my dream homes. I love seeing these homes in the older neighborhoods in downtown Toronto. Bay and Gable, in case you didn't know, is an architectural style of building. The characteristics of them include the bay windows, of course, and the gable rooftops. You will mostly find them in a lot of the older areas of Toronto, and they're mostly semi-detached homes or row houses. So a typical lot wouldn't be on a big plot of land. The reason being is back when they were built and popular in the late 1800s, during the Victorian times, of course, the lands in Toronto, they were taxed by square footage, I believe. So a lot of the lands were subdivided so that they were very narrow. So you didn't get a lot of actual land, and one way to get around it was to build on narrow plots of land, and they built up instead of wide. So you'll see these, again, as I mentioned before, they're semi-detached or as row houses, and they're mostly 2 to 3 stories tall, and they're optimized for space. So they're built back then as little mini mansions when the Victorian style of home was really popular in America. But again, as I mentioned before, not a lot of land, so they wanted to have something that had a little bit of that grandeur. And you'll find a lot of them in the older neighborhoods in Toronto, such as Cabbagetown, Little Italy, the Annex, Trinity Bellwoods, around those areas, Parkdale. They're all around neighborhoods. Most of them have, I shouldn't say most of them, I shouldn't say that. Some of them have heritage designation, which would mean that you can't really do anything to the facade of the homes that will take away from its classic nature. And some of the homeowners would actually get a little bit of money to make sure that that's in place, which is a good thing because it's really nice to keep the heritage of certain neighborhoods in Toronto instead of just tearing everything down and just building something new. So, as you can see, I am building this on a 30 by 40 lot, I want to say, or maybe it's the other way around. I can't remember exactly how big this lot is. In any case, I did build it on a bigger lot. Initially, I had built one of the row houses that you'll probably see on the gallery pretty soon on one of the smaller Newcrest lots, which is a little bit more appropriate. But recently, Seasons has just been released, and I really wanted to take advantage of all the nifty new tools and gameplay that the expansion pack has just introduced to us. So instead of building this on the smaller lot, which would have been appropriate, I built it on a bigger lot, so this way I could take advantage of having a bit of a yard, which is a little bit of a fantastic element on this particular lot, because in most of the Bay and Gable homes in Toronto, you will not get a yard. So as you can see here, I'm building a big enough yard to have a little bit of a workshop, and the reason why I'm building the roofs this way is because I wanted to take advantage of the new glass roof tools that they had introduced just before Seasons as part of a free upgrade, which is really, really cool. I loved playing with them as soon as they came out. I went over a lot of my old lots and started playing around with the glass roofs, seeing if they could fit them in logically. In this particular build, maybe not so logical. You won't see a lot of these lots that will have enough room for a conservatory, but here in this sort of modern workshop, I went as part of a skylight. And again, that's one of the fun things about playing The Sims. You could be as creative as you like with the builds, or as realistic as you like even too. So this lot has pretty much everything that you need for a family home. All the spaces are big enough so everyone can move around naturally, I hope, and do all their holiday stuff. I did test it out so they're actually able to fit in holiday parties or Christmas tree decorations. There's about 4 bedrooms, including a spare bedroom or an in-law suite on the main floor, or if you're playing this lot, you could turn this extra room into an office space or whatever you like it to be. Of course, I've used a lot of decor from Seasons. I honestly think this is the best iteration of Seasons that has come out for any of the Sims games. I played The Sims since the original SimCity, and I just think that Sims 4 Season has a lot of depth, not just with the graphics, but for gameplay features. I haven't gone too in depth except for some testing or briefly jumping into my challenge families. I've been going around my families and setting them up, adding new things to their homes, and just making sure that they're all set up for the seasons. Like most simmers, I've been making sure that they've got all their outfits ready and maybe doing some updates to their homes, like adding the glass roofs and such. I didn't have a particular family in mind when I started building this house. I started building with the facade and overall architectural theme in mind, and then the building function, I think about whether it's a residential lot or if it's a community lot, and if it's a community lot, what type of venue will it be? So as I decorate, or when I'm thinking of decorating, I let my imagination get the better of me, and I start to think of the family that lives here. So I will go in and make changes time to time when I think of their stories. Like I said, the Sims may or may not be created yet, but I start planning their lives already. So the idea for this house, I think, because it's a Bay and Gable home and they're found in downtown neighborhoods, the family is an urban city going family. Probably your standard liberal types. They're socially conscious. Maybe the adults are in academia. Maybe they're educators or lawyers or doctors. As this is a family home, I imagine that they have children. One of the traits I've had in mind for the house is good schools, which is not necessarily a commentary on Toronto school systems, but take that as you will. The family, as I imagine, they're well-to-do, and they should be, because I think after all is said and done, this house came in about 150 simoleons or so. But this family, they'll have enough money to go in and decorate it without tearing down existing structures. Though the home has a contemporary feel, I kind of wanted that. I didn't want it to go too modern, so I didn't want it to be open space or open concept or anything like that. I visited and toured a few of these homes, and I did want to keep the original charm of it, but I did not want to make it too vintage, like you visited and it looked like it's been untouched by time. I did build it in Newcrest too, which I think is a perfect spot to place them, I think. There's a corner of Newcrest by the waterway with the small lots in the park, which is great, I think. It's a mix of suburban and urban, and it's a perfect place to add these type of houses. I'm planning to actually build a bunch of different Bay and Gable homes in this corner. So again, the idea here is if they're a socially conscious family, they've probably been doing some traveling. So I wanted to give them enough space to keep all their, the gifts that they bring home from all their travels. And as you can see, right now I'm building up the backyard. And I mentioned before, this isn't pretty realistic for a home like this. They don't normally get a big backyard like this, but for this lot, I wanted to have some fun, and especially with the season stuff, as I mentioned before. So I wanted to have the swing set in there. I added the bee box. You normally don't get a lot of space in these type of lots. But like I said, we could have a little bit of fun with our games. And being a socially conscious family, they'll have stuff like the clothesline, because even though they have a perfectly fine dryer, they're aware of climate change and they're aware of their energy output. And I think hopefully it'll show in the type of decor that they choose to have too. And here, as you can see, what I'm doing now is I totally ripped out that kitchen. I use that Parenthood kitchen set a lot, and I do like it. It's one of my default kitchens that I use in most of my builds. But this time I think I wanted to go with something a little bit more contemporary, so I went with a cool kitchen counter set instead. I don't often use this set, I don't know why. But yeah, so I I kind of wanted to play around with it. And I'm kind of liking the color theme that I am coming up with this lot. I'm using a lot of purples with the natural browns. I use a subway tile here with a dark blue tiles. I think it works all in all, actually. Yeah, I never want to do anything too similar to previous builds, though there are few things that I do a lot, maybe out of habit, or maybe I just like them, and they're my lot, so I could do whatever I like. But no, the idea here is I try to do something new with each of my lots. So I either try to rearrange furniture a little bit differently, different types of decor. I don't normally like to use a lot of custom content or use a lot of clutter, because I want to keep things simple initially and clutter to the family that lives there, clutter with them in mind, that is. And I'm also conscious that I will be sharing, most likely be sharing these lots on the gallery, and it just makes it a little bit easier for me to share them if it doesn't have too much clutter or any custom content. It's not like I don't use it in my game. I do like using custom content. I have nothing against them. But I use them for my own personal gameplay. So I'll go in and use custom content windows, and I love doing that. The nice thing about Sims 4 is decorating it is so much easier than any of the Sims games. And I honestly mean that. I won't go into it that much, but it's way easier to clutter if I wanted to. It's way easier to move objects. It's way easier to do things like make things fit using the size up or size down feature that they have. You can move things around on the walls. You could kind of slide things around, just fine-tune their placing. The only cheat that you really need is BB move objects on. And if you are using this lot, you should totally turn on that cheat before you place the lot. And as I mentioned before, it's a family home. They are a big family, so maybe it's a big family, or maybe it's a small family, but maybe they like to have people over, so maybe that's why I had the big dining table there. As I mentioned before, I've been playing with seasons for a little bit, tiny little bit, and one of the fun features is the holiday features. I'm really having a ridiculous amount of fun with that. So I did want this family to be able to host for big parties like that. So I wanted the rooms to be big enough for them to do that. And they'd have the grand table for the grand feasts. And here, I'm just starting to clutter stuff up a little bit here and there. But yeah, the general idea again is not too much clutter, but you know, keeping with like contemporary modern elements for a family that is doing okay. They live in the city, they like to travel, they like to share their stories with artwork that they collect, maybe. So of course I wanted this house to have modern amenities. For example, the laundry. And even with vintage houses, they're all gonna be fitted with all the new equipment. Maybe not the latest, but at least new. So they'll have a laundry machine there, and they'll have contemporary fixtures. So I did want to use the seasons plumbing stuff that they've introduced in the EP, even though it may not be Victorian per se. As you can see, it looks pretty contemporary, which is okay because these powder rooms probably didn't exist. These are probably things that were built in. But yeah, it's a modern house except in a Victorian style building, and it will have everything that a modern family may or may not need. And as I mentioned before, this is the extra room, which you could use as an office or the spare bedroom, or maybe something for Airbnb type people. I have a hard time kind of deciding how to decorate a lot of these places. These bedrooms up here, they're unrealistically large. Again, that's okay because it's all fantasy. But I don't know if I would make anything much more smaller than this. Rooms in Victorian homes, they're not very big to begin with. You're not going to see the McMansion type rooms that you see in most modern structures. But here, like, okay, maybe in this particular instance, they might have knocked down some walls and just restructured the upper floors a little bit just for everything to make a little bit more sense. But I wanted to build a master bedroom that's at least relaxing and calm. And I like going a little bit different with each of the rooms too. I don't like to use a lot of similar decor. So maybe there's a little bit of mismatching there, which is okay because this house has been around for years. So of course it's going to go through a few hands and go through a few styling changes too. And some of that the present homeowners may not be able to fix. So it can't be 100% consistent all the time. A lot of the times, to be honest, I have no idea what I'm going to do with the room. So here I think I was going to make this into a spare bedroom, this room that we're looking at right now, but it, for some reason, it just kind of morphed into a teen bedroom instead, which is okay. Like I said, my imagination gets to me and I start thinking of who is using this space. And in this instance, it is probably a teenager. Maybe not so much of a roommate, but that's okay. Like I said, I have no idea what I'm doing sometimes. I just go without a plan and just play with stuff until it works. And it may not make too much sense when you're looking at it in a speed build, but you know, that's just the way it goes. And there are a lot of times where, you know, it doesn't look right, and after the build, I look at it later on and I just want to change everything else. And again, that's totally okay. Like, I really don't know how to decorate sometimes, especially when it comes to kids' rooms. So we're looking at a kids' room right now and I have no idea how to decorate kids' rooms. I just throw colorful stuff on the walls, whatever's available in each of the packs that I have. And maybe it's because I don't have kids, so I have no idea what to do with these particular rooms. I just make sure that things at least look coordinated, that it's cute, it works, kids will like it. I don't want the rooms to be too small because I sometimes like the kids to hang out there. I mean, of course you could replace that kid's bed with a toddler bed if you needed to. And I want things to at least work. So, for example, that huge dollhouse there that takes up a lot of space, I want to make sure that kids could actually get to it and play with it. And they're not stamping their feet annoyed that they can't get to a particular spot in their room. But yeah, I throw things together until it works. That's my philosophy with nurseries, and maybe that's why I'm really bad at building them. But I don't like to use the same wallpaper on every wall. I like to contrast colors. I actually am fond with this little bathroom here. I like the white subway tiles with the brown tile. It actually looks like it all works all together. Again, it doesn't look the same as all the other bathrooms in the house, and I think the philosophy was, again, different homeowners had different fixtures for different rooms. And that's okay. That's part of the charm of old houses. It kind of gives you the history of the people who were there before. And maybe that's why I like them so much, because, you know, even though they have been renovated or modernized, the people who lived there before did bring something to it. They have added their own touch to it, and you've incorporated that in how you live now. So here I'm building an outdoor space, and I'm using the set from Laundry Day. I hardly ever use the Laundry Day set, the wicker set that is. I use stuff from the Laundry Day all the time. It's one of my favorites. I didn't think it would be, but it actually is. And I love putting these drapes from movie night. Yes, from movie night on some of my patios. It just makes it look a little bit more breezier. You see that a lot in neighborhoods around here. nice because it provides a little bit of privacy, but it also keeps the sun out and bugs maybe. And as you can see, we're just fixing up the backyard a little bit. I've added a bee box. Again, going back to the socially conscious family that they are, they probably would have an urban bee box. This is a thing that does happen in Toronto. There is, of course, the Save the Bees campaign. As you know, bees are an important element to our ecology. They help pollinate a lot of important plants, so you do want to keep them around, and bees do like the cities. So there's a lot of plants in Toronto. There's a lot of tree canopy, there's a lot of flowers, gardens. So we want to keep the bees happy. So they've been building public beehives all around parks and sidewalks of all places to entice the bees to stay, to hang out and do their thing. And this is what this family is all about. So they keep their own little bee box along with their eco-friendly clothesline. They have a nifty little workshop in the back here. They could hang out, sit and watch the world go by, watch their plants grow. I'm not sure what they would grow here. Tomatoes are popular, they're easy, cucumbers. Grapes, not so much. Grapes are hard to grow in the city, I think. I had a friend who used to grow wine grapes, and it would vine all around a trellis. It was kind of neat. But wine grapes are not eating grapes. Gardening is something else I actually struggle with at times. Maybe because in real life I don't really have a green thumb, so I don't even know why that would reflect in my game. This is actually okay because I'm going for an English style garden here where everything looks wild and overgrown, and this actually works for me as long as the plants and the shapes themselves make sense. You see, in real life I wouldn't have the patience for waiting for flowers to grow and bloom, and this is probably why I prefer some gardening instead. I kind of wish there were more plants and trees in seasons, but I understand what they were going for. They wanted to concentrate on the existing plants in the game and how weather affected them instead. So one of the gardening movements, especially in the city, is to make sure to use native plants. This way the plants are already acclimatized to the weather and environment, and it makes it easier to grow. So it just uses less water. So we're right by Lake Ontario, so we don't really have a problem with water, but you know, my socially aware, eco-friendly family are probably conscious about conservation. And after everything is put together, we take the time out to put the lighting in. And this is when I know I'm getting close to the end. I add the lamps when everything is built, and I go into night mode so I could see it better. I love considering what lamps to use and how light affects the area and around it and how it falls on all the surfaces. It's kind of like adding accessories to an outfit. Like the lamps themselves are like jewelry. That's how I consider it, at least. Overall, once the build is done, I just go in and I fidget with everything almost to an extreme. I bet I'll just keep going in and fiddling with the decorations and add more stuff, you know, as long as it takes. So sometimes I would have a build and it just wouldn't be ready to add to the gallery right away. So it may take a few more nights for me to go in and just make sure everything's complete. And then, you know, I see something and I think, oh, well, my build actually needs that too. So I go in and I make changes, of course. And of course I will have it on the gallery. As I mentioned before, I do like sharing, and I'm really happy when people go in and do their own thing, which is again why I don't use too much CC or clutter. I love the way people decorate or even how they play with my lots. It's the beauty of The Sims, and it's why we have the gallery, so we could share our stuff and someone could go in and make the lot theirs. And that's totally fine with me. I don't really have a lot of problems with people redecorating and even re-uploading the lot. I know some people do, but you know, I don't really care either way. You know, just as long as they don't go in and take credit for the lot, for building the lot. That's kind of low if you do that, so don't do that. But as long as people have fun with it, that's what's important to me, and I really appreciate that people like my builds. So it's mostly it for the build, I think. Let me know what you think. if you've downloaded any of my lots and you're using it in your game, I'd love to hear from you. This lot will be in the gallery, and I'll have screenshots up at my Tumblr, and I'll have a little quick tour after the build is done. My Tumblr is at simdaisies.tumblr.com, so feel free to follow me there. My gallery ID again is belledaisies. I'll drop those links in the comments below, in the notes, sorry. And drop a line in the comments, speaking of comments. If you want to see more of these narrated speed builds, let me know that too. I don't usually narrate my stuff. I'm still getting used to that, so I know it's kind of rough, but you know, that's how it goes. And of course, if you like the video, feel free to like the video. And if you want to, subscribe to keep up with all my stuff. I still enjoy putting build tours, just basic build tours, so you see more of that, but I may add more speed builds in the future. So if you're still here, thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope you're having an awesome day.